Napolitano with the Oklahoma Association of Electric Cooperatives in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Welcome to Along Those Lines.
Support for this podcast comes from Ribbon, who offers the following message. Now more than ever, communications with your employees, partners, and suppliers, who might all be working from home, becomes a necessity. Ribbon's hosted voice portfolio and domain expertise can help your teams manage all your remote communications.
Hi everyone, this is a podcast about electric cooperatives, the work they do, and the challenges they face. I'm your host, Scott Hoffman. While most of us are staying home to combat the spread of coronavirus, many electric cooperative employees are still reporting to work to keep electricity and, in some cases, broadband connectivity flowing to their consumer members. How do you operate a national electric grid, keep people powered, and home offices running, all while making sure employees and consumer members stay safe through this pandemic? We talked to experts from a generation and transmission co-op in Minnesota and distribution co-ops in Missouri and Texas who are on the front lines of this effort. First, we'll hear from Mike McFarland. He's Risk Director at Great River Energy, about steps they're taking in staffing and working with local and national partners to keep their members up and running. And just a note to our listeners, in order to ensure proper social distancing, this podcast was recorded remotely with a variety of audio sources, so you may notice a difference in the way it sounds. Mike, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be with you today.
So G&T cooperatives, for the most part, are considered part of our nation's critical infrastructure. Tell us about how that impacts the way Great River Energy has responded to this pandemic. I know one of the things that you're required to do is actually have people on site at all times. Talk about that and some other stuff you guys are having to do.
Sure. So just a little bit of background. We created a pandemic plan in about 2009. I believe that was in response to the swine flu H1N1 epidemic that was going on at the time. Didn't really go very far with that. Never even actually activated the plan. But for this pandemic, we implemented a low-level response at the end of February, which basically was, let's get prepared for this in case it grows. On March 12th, we implemented our medium-level threat response. The pandemic plan we have is a guideline. It's not specific to COVID-19. And one of the things that it recommended at that point is that we send all non-essential, non-time critical, need to work on site workers to send them home. And we categorize that according to, we have category 1 workers. These are folks that are needed on site or on location to run the bulk electric system, the grid, to operate our power plants, control room operators, and then the host of folks that you need both at the plant for maintenance, critical maintenance. We're not necessarily talking about discretionary maintenance at this point, or in the field for managing and taking care of the transmission system. So on March 12th, we sent home, following the guidelines of the plan, we went more aggressively and said, everybody that can go home should go home. And we've been in that mode ever since. So we're doing it with our Category 1 workers at our Category 1 sites. We've stepped up cleaning. We've separated shifts so that the shifts aren't intermingling when they change shifts. There's deep cleaning between the shifts. Within the shifts, there's social distancing. So our control center, for example, is pretty large. We have 3 people in there on a typical shift, and they're maintaining at least 6 feet distance. At our power plant, social distancing is fairly easy, but when they come together for lunch and things like that, we've staggered shifts, we've staggered breaks. We're providing bottled water instead of allowing people to use the same faucet or whatever for drinking. So that's some thoughts on that.
You mentioned maintenance work. Did you say that you have a full stop on routine maintenance, or are there certain maintenance things that still need to go forward and then some of the less imperative stuff is going on the back burner?
Yeah, the broader answer to your question is that we're looking at all of our projects and deciding whether or not we can go forward with the projects or not. I'll give you an example of a project we're not going forward with. It's not a major thing, but we have a relay, for example, that needs to be changed out, just an upgrade. It's in a facility that's pretty close work, pretty tight. It would require 3 or 4 workers. We're not going to do that work because it is discretionary and we can put that off until later.
Great. And I know that emergency situations like this tend to bring about a higher threat level for cybersecurity incidents and threats. What are you guys doing to kind of step up your game on that? And how are you helping your member cooperatives do the same?
One of the things that we're doing is Great River Energy is a member of the CRISP, which is the Cybersecurity Risk Information Sharing Program. It's a NERC and EISAC, the Energy Information Sharing Center. And what that program does is that's actually monitoring all of our traffic in and out of our systems. There's a number of other utilities that are involved in that. I think some other G&Ts that are signed up on that. The other thing that we're doing is we're stepping up our phishing testing. It's seems like it may be a weird time to be further stressing our employees in that manner, but rather have them fail with us than fail for real. So we've stepped up that testing, and I personally have gotten a couple of phishing attempts that I've managed to avoid, but those are some of the things that we're doing around cybersecurity.
And you mentioned relationships with a couple of government agencies. Talk about kind of the broader work that you've been doing, not only with the federal government, but other G&Ts, other utilities, to kind of stay on top of not only the progress of the virus, but best practices for managing it and keeping yourselves and your members safe.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So at the highest level, Grit River Energy is a member of the Electric Subsector Coordinating Council. There's a number of utilities across the U.S., and I know at least a few other G&Ts that are involved in that council. That council brings together DOE, NERC, FERC, and EEI, I think, is the host of those meetings. We're meeting twice a week, and we're talking about things at the highest level in terms of what do utilities need, coordination, other critical infrastructure. So interesting topics on that call include how is the telecom infrastructure doing in response to all of this work at home? Well, by the way. And then we're addressing specific things like the need in the industry, especially for operators and control centers for testing. So if we have somebody that suspects an infection, we don't have to shut down an entire shift, that we can get tested right away and within a couple of days know that that shift is either safe or needs to be quarantined. We're also involved in calls with the CISA, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is part of DHS, Department of Homeland Security. They're on the ESCC calls, but we're doing separate calls with them on supply chain, and that involves several hundred, I think, participants. Within the G&T group, there's a risk and insurance group, there's a ERM committee, and there's an insurance group, and the two groups have been working together on regular calls, just keeping each other informed. We're doing regional outreach, so we're just talking to some of the other G&Ts and other utilities in the area. So Darylyn, Minn Kota, Xcel Energy, Minnesota Power, Otter Tail Power, Basin Electric, and then we're also working with the statewide, so Minnesota Rural Electric Association. We're doing weekly calls with them, and we're on with three other G&Ts, along with all of the co-ops in Minnesota, and talking about, what we're up to, what they're up to, what our concerns are. We're also doing the same thing in North Dakota, as we have presence there as well.
That's great. Well, Mike, thanks so much for being on the podcast. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Next, we're going to talk to leaders at SEMO Electric Cooperative in Sikeston, Missouri, about keeping their crews safe and members connected to broadband. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Support for this podcast is made possible by Ribbon, who wants you to know that delivering the highest quality customer experience for broadband connectivity to residential and business customers for their data and voice services requires a partner who understands your networks, your business, and the technology to make it happen. With COVID-19 disrupting everyday business, Ribbon is the partner you need to deliver everything from packet optical solutions to VoIP services with security and analytics to overcome the unprecedented challenges your teams face. Take control of your destiny and contact Ribbon today at go.rbbn.com/NRECA.
I'm Karis Dean from Piedmont Electric in Hillsborough, North Carolina. You're listening to Along Those Lines.
Welcome back. Sean Van Slyke is CEO at SEMO Electric Cooperative, and his co-op, as always, is putting the safety of their crews and their member consumers first in the face of this pandemic. Sean joined us with Angie Byford, who handles member services and billing, as well as Lloyd Rice, who's the manager of fiber services. Sean, Angie, Lloyd, welcome.
Thank you.
So have you guys seen any COVID cases in your territory, any at the co-op so far? Sean, let's start with you.
So far with the COVID-19 cases, we've been paying a lot of attention and watching it. And I'd say in the last couple of weeks, we've started to see more cases locally. The metropolitan areas and the larger cities, they've been having for several weeks and months. But we now are starting to see things trickle in. We're paying more attention to the local cases, trying to watch for more things. And we're trying to be more proactive, even more than what we were, meaning that we're cleaning our facilities even more. We're taking more steps to ensure that our employees are safe. And we're trying to make sure that we're able to provide services for fiber and electricity as we move forward. I think the biggest thing, the difference in our world, is trying to prepare for storms, trying to prepare for business continuity. It's really hard in our business to continue to do the business without people being within 6 feet of each other. For example, yesterday we had to put a large transformer for a new jail that's being built, and it's pretty hard for our linemen to set a large transformer and not get within 6 feet of each other. This is really trying times, but what we're seeing, our team is adapting and evolving, and we're learning how to work together through COVID-19.
We put in 2 temporary drive-thrus recently for our members, We did not have a drive-through before COVID-19. We went out and purchased a couple of outbuildings, like the portable buildings, and we made drive-throughs out of those. So we do have a member service representative out in that building here at our Saxon office, and then in our other building at our Bloomfield office, we do have another member service representative out there working every day. So that does spread them out where they're not so close together.
And what other kind of things are you doing to help your members stay not only safe, but kind of on top of what the latest information is? Are you giving them help in reducing their energy bills, helping them kind of keep their energy bills low, things like that?
We are. When they call in and talk to us, we do work with them. If they have any kind of billing questions, we are kind of going through that. Our office has prepaid billing, which is a good thing for our members. That helps them not get behind and keep up with their usage day to day rather than worrying about a big monthly bill.
And have you all suspended cutoffs for late payments at this point?
Yes, we have. And we are just encouraging our members to pay what they can. We ask if they have some kind of financial need. We're trying to look into resources for them and guide them into the right place. We're not charging any penalties. We're posting that information on our website for them just to make sure that they understand what's going on. We don't want anybody to get into a financial bind or to get stressed more than what they already are. We just want them to know that we're willing to work with them and we'll help them any way that we can.
That's great. We were talking about kind of the electricity side. Lloyd, you look after the broadband side. Are you pretty much running by the same rules that the electric side is running? Do you have other ways that you're keeping your crews and the public safe?
We are, Scott. We're pretty active on social media to begin with, so we've taken some extra steps to make sure our subscribers and subscribers-to-be know that our installers, which is a little more personal, it's potentially in the home, it's a little more upfront with folks. Those guys are wearing masks, gloves, booties, taking all the precautions. We've started doing a reminder call specifically about that to make sure that the subscriber is aware, of what's going to take place. Again, it is in the home and there are things going on.
And Lloyd, talk a little bit about how you're making sure that the members who need broadband access, which is increasing, I'm sure, by the day, how are you getting that to them? You're accelerating services? Are you providing hotspots, things like that?
Great question, Scott. And we've really been fortunate where we have services ready. We're just in year 3 of our build process, but we've been rolling up customers at about double the pace within the last month and a half. Part of that is just the inherent spring and the territory we have ready, but part of this, Scott, fell into place, was kind of thrust upon us because of this. Displaced workers and students, we created what's called a fast track program, and that's just a little internal verbiage. We're going to take those fast track people, subscribers, and get those immediately to the contractor. We're going to put up a temporary drop to the house. We're going to immediately turn around on those fast track subscribers and give them a call right back when the drop's in place and try to schedule that home install immediately. Was effectively a 2 to 3 week process depending on weather, and we've actually pulled that down to about a 48-hour window when it's deemed necessary.
So, Lloyd, talk about some of the initiatives that the federal government is doing to keep connectivity, to keep people not only safe but connected. Is that impacting the way you guys are doing business?
Absolutely, Scott. We joined or signed on to the Keep Americans Connected pledge. That was an email generated originally about 3 weeks ago where Chairman Pai of the FCC requested 3 big things: for there not to be any termination of service to any residential or small business, specifically because of past due bills and things caused by the pandemic, to waive late fees on that same residential and small business customer, again, directly related to the pandemic. And the third one, Scott, has been a really neat opportunity for us, and it was a request to open up any Wi-Fi hotspots. And we already had some of those in our area that we had set up locally. Some really great stories have come out of those of how people make use of our public Wi-Fi hotspots. But Scott, what that looks like for us is we're hanging antennas on the outside of our local offices that are kind of spread out throughout the territory. We've got one on a local bar and grill situation, one on another just old downtown public building in Bloomfield. And that Wi-Fi hotspot is just public Wi-Fi. Make use of it. And again, the need for that was really neat to kind of come back and see it tied in like, wow, that's a neat official request that we were already doing and have since started to expand on a little bit. We've got 2 more on the way.
That's great. Sean, let me bring you back in. How have you noticed your team, kind of your broader team, responding to all these changes and kind of last-minute alterations to the way they normally do business? Are they handling it pretty well?
Yeah, Scott, I would say our team is doing an outstanding job. But I will tell you, there's fear in some of their eyes. They're thinking about their families. They're thinking about other things going on. We've got employees who have family members who have lost their jobs. We have spouses who have lost their job. And I think the biggest thing that we're trying to do is just keep pushing forward and just assuring them if they feel uncomfortable, they can go home, they can take PTO. We'll work with them. We've tried to do some different things with people working from the home. But again, we're in an essential service. We're trying to provide electricity and fiber to our folks and just keep moving forward. That's the biggest message that we have going on right now.
Yeah, and you've sort of been one of the program's outstanding leaders in the safety realm. Talk about how your focus on safety kind of generally has helped you respond in this particular crisis.
From the beginning, we have always had the emphasis on safety here, and we talk a lot about being selfish with safety. Nobody wants to go to a hospital. Nobody wants to go to a funeral home, that sort of thing. And we've just tried to extend that a little bit. Our supervisor team, our operations supervisor team, even on Monday, they had a tailgate session where they met, and they parked all the trucks 6 feet away. They sat on the tailgates, and they talked about things. Our direct supervisors are trying to reach out to each employee each day and just touch base with them and make sure they have what they need. We make sure the supplies are there, the water's there, sanitizer's there, whatever it is that they need, we can deliver it to them, we can get it to them. We're just trying to be out there. This is changing our world. We're evolving into it, and we're going to be better when we get done with this because I think we're going to learn how to be closer without having to be face-to-face. But I think those times that we do come back together, the first 6 months or a year, will be exciting because it'll be like a family reunion.
Yeah, we're kind of looking forward to the same thing. So, Sean, the Electric Cooperative Program, kind of writ large, I get the sense that we're dealing with this pretty well. What do you think it is about the way we do business, the culture that we create, the history that we have that makes us so strong and effective in responding to these kinds of things?
Look at the past. Look how many storms, ice storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods. You can just keep on naming crisis after crisis. Look how many times we've come together, we've grabbed the rope, and we all pull it together, regardless of where we're from or where we're at. Think about the mutual aid that we bring to each other. This is when we step up, and this is when we can do things. If you're in the utility business, whether it's in telecommunication or it's electric and natural gas, whatever it is, you've had some experience with crisis. And now is the time that the senior folks like myself and other people have an excellent opportunity to teach our 20 and 30-year-olds, hey, this is what this is all about. And if you're comfortable in this zone, you're going to experience this more and more during your career. And I think that's what's exciting right now is to try to make this a time that we can teach and coach other people so that they'll be ready for the next one. We talk here because we're in the New Madrid Fault for the earthquake. We think this is just maybe our warm-up for that big earthquake that we'll have to deal with someday here in southeast Missouri.
Sean, Lloyd, Angie, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for having us.
For more on the challenge of keeping new and existing member consumers connected to broadband in this crisis, we turn to network engineer Brighton Hurtis of Jackson Electric Cooperative in Texas. Brighton, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Talk about what Jackson Electric has been doing on the broadband side during this difficult time.
Yeah, so Jackson Electric, we run a subsidiary broadband service called myjec.net, and we serve customers throughout our service area as well as customers that are outside of our service area as far as electrical coverage. And we have not only been installing customers at a quicker pace, but we have also been setting up hotspots for Wi-Fi in the community. There was actually several existing that we've done before. We've had Wi-Fi hotspots in parks that are in place as well as gas stations. And one of the things that's actually changed, though, about our hotspots is the location and the accessibility, because most of our hotspots that existed were inside of buildings, like inside of gas stations or community centers or shopping malls. And we've had, in all of those locations, we've had some as well as coffee shops, restaurants. And now with the pandemic, we've actually had to kind of move those hotspots to being outside in parking lots. And there's one project specifically that we're working on right now that's going to cover a 60,000 square foot parking lot, completely free Wi-Fi and complete coverage of the entire parking lot outside of a large community center building in Bay City, Texas as well.
So do you have this hardware that you need to create these things already in your warehouse, or do you have to go out last minute and find these things and throw it together?
We have some of it. We partner with a company called Juniper Networks, and they have a subsidiary Wi-Fi company called Mist, and we have some of the hardware, but we also did have to get expedited shipping and work with Juniper and Mist very closely to get equipment for that project I was speaking about, because there was several Wi-Fi radios and external antennas to cover a very large parking lot.
And have you noticed an uptick in usage on these Wi-Fi hotspots?
Yes, and of our broadband delivery network in general, we have seen about a 30% increase in internet usage across the board. And that's the schools network, because the schools are all VPNing into their network, as well as everybody working from home. We're seeing across the board about a 30% more. I mean, that's hundreds of megabits per second more usage. It was very noticeable as soon as all of this got into gear.
I imagine a lot of people out there have questions about how the internet can handle this massive jump in traffic. What do you do on your side to handle that, to make sure that your members have connectivity?
Yeah, what you do when you're engineering a network like this. So when we set out to build a network at Jackson Electric, me as the engineer and acting architect of the network, we made it to scale up to, hundreds of gigabits of traffic. That way it's going to be able to deliver any services that we have to deliver in the next several years. So we've not as much seen an issue with capacity, because we have plenty of capacity going into the big cities such as Houston, even though we're rural 2 hours away. But we've got relationships with providers that provide us internet transit out of Houston, internet bandwidth. They could go up to hundreds of gigabits of capacity. Really, it's just a matter of preparing for this type of situation, but I guarantee that it caught a lot of companies or small internet providers off guard with everything.
So you're sort of in the middle of this triangle between three large urban areas, Houston, Corpus Christi, and San Antonio. What have you seen in terms of how your membership is changing the way they do business on the broadband side? I assume most people are on lockdown, most people are starting to work from home, if not all. How does that impact you, and what have you all been doing to respond to that difference in traffic?
I think that goes along directly with the increased bandwidth usage. I think the dynamic has changed completely as far as how people are using their broadband to the home service. We have a ton of customers down by the ocean, down by the water, down in Matagorda Bay, down in the rural areas in southeast Texas in our service areas. And those customers are used to commuting to work during the week, but now they're living completely at their homes and working completely at their homes. So our broadband service, in effect, has become part of their business function, and it's part of the businesses that they work for is productivity. If they don't have reliable internet service, then that business is going to struggle in their productivity for that day or for that period of time.
So we've heard that most utilities are suspending cutoffs during this pandemic period. Is that the same on the broadband side? Are you guys following the same rules on how you manage customers who are in arrears?
Yeah, it is the same. I know that we've suspended some cutoffs due to the pandemic. We've pushed things off as far as payments, as well as there's been requests to give temporary usage of more bandwidth and things like that, and we're happy to do it. We've got the bandwidth that we can provide to customers without accruing a larger cost for a limited period of time. If, for example, I believe a school district that we serve last week, they reached out and said that they wanted a temporary Wi-Fi hotspot at a local gymnasium, and they had Wi-Fi there, but they needed increased speeds to that plan, and we were able to turn it up to a gigabit speed pretty quickly when it was 100 megabits. So things like that we're happy to do.
And are you seeing a jump in members who have not had broadband up to this point saying either A, I want to be connected now, or I want the service that I have to be increased kind of right away?
Yes, definitely in the last month or two, we've had a ton of people, members or non-members, because we do also serve broadband outside of our electric coverage area. But they've the story on the phone, I was talking to our CSRs the other day, the story on the phone is really, we didn't need internet, or we didn't think we needed internet in the past, but now our kids are working at home on their schoolwork, doing e-learning, and we absolutely need internet now.
Is this unique to co-op provided broadband, all the extra things that you're doing, providing hotspots, increasing speeds, helping members with their bills? Is that a unique co-op kind of way of doing business?
I do know that the big carriers such as AT&T have been suspending data caps, so they're letting you go above your data caps, but that wasn't really something that JEC had to do because we have unlimited data caps already for our internet plans. But I think what's unique to the co-ops is that we try to work directly with the communities to build them up and give them internet access. We serve several school district internet, and we work directly with those school districts. The first thing we did was we went to the schools and said, hey, can we get a list of names and addresses, and can we figure out how we can serve absolutely all of your students at home and give them e-learning enabled to their home, low income or not, middle income, it doesn't matter. We need to figure this out and get access, as well as if that's not possible, then let's look at the Wi-Fi hotspots. I think that's something that's unique to the co-op in my experience, is how we are able to work directly with the communities that we serve and help build them up and enable them to get the service that they need.
That's great. So, Brighton, put on your philosopher's cap a little bit here. What is it about co-ops, our history, the way we do business, that makes us unique in the way we respond to these events? I mean, we deal with hurricanes, we deal with storms and outages. What is it that makes us so good at dealing with these kinds of things?
I believe it's entirely the way that co-ops are member-built and how we, as co-ops, we are able to give back to these members in a way that's productive on both sides. We exist because of the members, and I think that's very crucial to also tying in the communities that are involved, including the school districts. Even if there's no relationship directly between the school district or a community center and the co-op as far as electrical service, there may be a direct relationship between the members and the cooperatives that it would benefit the co-op to help build up those members via those community centers, bring everybody together and build everything up to where we can all make it through this pandemic or hurricanes or whatever we're confronted by. The co-op's happy to help, and I think that all goes back to being member-oriented.
That's great, Brighton. Thanks so much for being on the podcast, and thanks for all the great work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
And thanks as well to our sponsor, Ribbon, and to you, our listeners. For more on this and other podcasts, visit us at electric.coop. Until next time, I'm Scott Hoffman.
I'm Victoria Lucero from Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative in Sierra Vista, Arizona. Thanks for listening to Along Those Lines. Subscribe and rate us on your favorite podcast app.